Well, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest video. In this video we're going to look at installing Apache NetBeans Incubating 10 on Linux Mint, which is an Ubuntu distribution. So the first thing we need to do is to download the binaries from NetBeans Apache org. Then we need to extract the downloaded zip file to a suitable folder. I would recommend NetBeans _10.0. You need to check that you have JDK on your system. JDK 8, 9, 10, 11 are all suitable. I'm using JDK 11. You then need to double click on the NetBeans file in the bin directory and NetBeans will load. If you get a warning at this point, then just click continue installation, because you can actually install the oracle.js.parser later, so don't worry about that. And then of course accept any of the defaults and to install any plugins and licenses, for example. Finally, we're going to put a menu on, an item on the menu, which will of course then allow you to create a desktop and a taskbar icon in Linux Mint. That's what we're going to do, so let's get started. First of all, I'm going to actually check to see which version of Java. Check that you've actually got Java on your system. So type in terminal which space Java, and as you can see, I've actually got Java. Now we need to find out which version, and this takes a moment. And you can see I have version 11. If you don't have Java on, you need to install it, which you can do with the sudo apt-get install openjdk 11, and that will install it. Okay, so let's download NetBeans. So you go to the Apache NetBeans website and come to the download page. The one you want is the binaries. So it's this item here, binaries incubating NetBeans 10.0 bin.zip. So click on it and you'll get an option of some mirrors. I recommend you use the mirror closest to you and click on it and it will come down. I've actually already downloaded this to save some time, because it does actually take a minute or two to come down on my system. So it's in downloads. You'll actually notice I've downloaded some other things as well. If you look carefully, you will see that I don't have NetBeans on my computer. There's no NetBeans directory. So if we double click on this, I'm using the graphical system in Linux because quite simply it's easier to show people what's happening and how things are rather than using the command line. But you could do this all on the command line if you wished. So extract. We're going to just extract it into the download directory for now, and this will take a moment. I'll come back when it's finished. Okay, so that's the extraction completed successfully, so we can close that, and you can see I now have a folder marked NetBeans. If you press F2 and the end key, we can put an underscore 10.0, and that will give us a good folder. We now need to move that into the home directory, and as you can see, we now have NetBeans 10.0 in the home directory. Open it up and open the bin directory. There are 3 items in here. It's the top one you want for Linux and Mac OS. The other 2 are for Windows. So double click on the top one. Click on Run, and after a moment or two, NetBeans will start to load. the NetBeans IDE has now loaded, but it's not actually ready for use. We need to give it a few minutes while it builds, indexes, and does some setup behind the scenes. One of the things that you'll notice is that when you click on Tools, you've only got two options, Plugins and Options. So you need to come to Plugins, click on Available Plugins, and you have two items. Now you do need to install both of these. It's actually quite important. So we shall go ahead and install those. Okay, so that's the plugins installed that we needed, and you can now see that there are 10 plugins. The next problem is if you have a look at active, virtually nothing is active. So you need to click on the box to select the inactive ones. Now, if you click on the base IDE, you'll know that it's selected. It will actually not install any extra features because they're already installed. But you can click on it, it does have an effect. Click on Activate, and it will need to download some more plugins. So click on Activate, and then click on Finish. You'll now notice that we've got a full menu bar, and the menu now includes a lot of options, whereas previously it was just plugins and options. It's now quite a lot of options in there. Okay, so if you want C++, you need to come to Settings, and you need to active or make active the NetBeans 8.2 portal. So put the tick in the box. This might take a moment or two before it actually shows the list, especially as at the moment NetBeans is busy building a dictionary. So I shall click check for newest, and as you can see, there are rather a lot. Now that's interesting. It says NetBeans IDE 9 is available. This is actually NetBeans 10. So they need to actually change that. I want C++, and I want the REST HTML5 client. I don't need any of the others. Nope. So I shall install those. Next, accept, install. We'll come back once this is installed, because this actually takes a moment or two to install, because there are quite a lot of extra libraries that the C and the C++ plugin requires. So this will take 2 or 3 minutes to install. Okay, click continue, and it'll ask you to restart the IDE. There is another update to install, so I'm going to select restart later. I'm going to come to the updates, and there's one which is marked local tasks, so I'll click on update. Next. This doesn't take very long. Continue. And now I'm going to restart the IDE. We'll come back in a moment. Okay, so that's the IDE restarted, and we'll just check. It's probably working in the background, but tools, options, and I'll just see. So let's have a look at HTML5, C++, CSS, sorry, process. So it's found the CSS items automatically. It's found Node.js. I need to download that, which I will do later. Appearance. I need to change that to Nimbus because that's the preferred, and that's okay. So everything's now installed. What I now need to do is install my normal plugins, which I've already downloaded, and I can do that through plugins. But before I do, I mentioned that you might get a warning about the Oracle.js.parser implementation, and I very quickly said you needed to put in the first two plugins, and I'm just looking for, here we go. If you remember, I said we needed to install this plugin. Now, if you do get the warning about the Oracle JS parser implementation, then when you actually start NetBeans, you'll only have one available plugin. You might remember we had two. We had the NB Java compiler and the Oracle JS parser. You need to install the JS parser, and then you'll find that all the rest will become available. But if you don't install this first, then the others aren't usually available. So once you've installed it, everything, you can install all the other items and plugins without a problem. Now, in my available plugins, if you remember, there's none there that I want, but I have downloaded the plugins that I prefer, and they're in, of course, the downloads plugins folder, and you can see here the various plugins that I like to have. So I've just highlighted them, click on OK. They'll come in and you'll actually get some information about each one. This, I would strongly recommend that you get this, because it gives you, it says cheat sheets, but basically what it does is it gives you all the key codes and all the other codes that you need for code templates and code completion, and it will sit on the right hand side usually of your IDE, so you've got them, and it is context sensitive, so if you're working on PHP it shows PHP, if you're working on Java it shows Java, for example. So I shall install these. Next, accept, install. These shouldn't take very long, and here we go, continue, and it needs to restart the IDE, which we will do in a moment. Actually, we will do that now. Okay, while that's coming in, there's just one thing I'd like to talk to you about. NetBeans uses whichever is your default JDK, but if you actually wish to use a specific JDK, you come to your NetBeans directory, to the etc, and double-click on netbeans.conf. You edit, well, you come down to the bottom of this file, and here you can see it says NetBeans JDK Home. So, for example, if you wanted to use JDK 8, which is actually useful if you're creating plugins and that type of thing, then it would be a good idea to remove the hash, which is the comment character, and then put the path to whichever JDK you want to use. Now, for example, if you're going to use OpenJDK, you can put that in a folder anywhere, even in the NetBeans directory if you want, and then put the path to it here. Save this, of course, restart the IDE, and you're then working with that JDK. You can always, here's the key bindings I told you about, the cheat sheet. As you can see, the code template is empty because we haven't got any, but if I come down to PHP, you can see there's rather a lot, and the description really isn't that useful to me. So, but what it expands to is. So here it's really good. You have this context sensitive item at the bottom. It's ticked by default, and this means that if you're working on a PHP file, it'll show PHP. If you're working on an HTML file, it'll show the HTML, that type of thing. And if it takes up too much space, you can just minimize it to the edge of the window, which is very good. So we will just check our options. We should now have, for example, Emmet, and we have our color codes preview, that type of thing. I'm just going to go into editor, check my code template, and check that it's set to tab. It is. And what I will finally do is I have a default set of settings for the options that I use and the templates that I use, and I shall be importing those to set up my system as I like it. So you just click on import, browse, mouse has stopped working, there we go, that's better. Documents, and you can see I've taken it, this is actually taken from elsewhere, but I've got my options. I shall tick them all so that they're all as I want them. Click on OK, and NetBeans will restart. Okay, so that's everything to do with installing NetBeans on Linux Mint. What we now need to do is actually show you how to do the menu. So if you come down to the menu and right click on it, click on Configure, and then click on the menu button at the top, and then open in Menu Editor. Come to Programming, and here we're going to add a new item. And on another screen I have all the information I need. First of all, the name. I'm going to just copy and paste this and put in 10.0. Then we need to browse to the NetBeans 10 bin and double click on just the NetBeans and it comes in. But I actually want to start this, so I've put inverted commas at the beginning, inverted commas at the end. I've come back, so I've put /bin/sh space, and then in the comment I'm going to use the original NetBeans 8 comment, the smarter way to code. To change the icon, click on it, click on NetBeans 10, click on NB, and here you see the NetBeans PNG, so click on OK and you get the NetBeans logo. Click on OK, and here we have the Apache NetBeans 10. So close, close, and if we come to the menu and we come to programming, you can now see Apache NetBeans 10. If you right click on it, you can add it to the panel and you can add it to the desktop. So we will add it to the panel, and as you can see it will appear here, and we will right click on it again and add to the desktop, and it's now on the desktop. So that's all there is to installing Apache NetBeans IDE 10 on Linux Mint Ubuntu. Ubuntu is very similar, it's just a different menu system on that. As I say, if you get the warning, don't worry about it. All you have to do is go to Tools, Plugins, and install the available plugin, and then install all the other plugins and activate, and everything will be okay. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please comment, like, share, and subscribe. My name's John, and I'll see you next time.